A lot can be said about Jon Absey. He was the man who put on the suit and made an entire arena forget about their worries, who climbed ladders that were too tall, launched off trampolines, and dreamed up stunts that nobody would let him do, and a few they probably shouldn't have. He was 25 years of laughs, standing ovations. He gave every single thing he had to people he'd never meet and kids who'd remember him forever. He gave humanity to the bear, but that was just who he was. Because away from the lights and the noise, he was the same man. The one who picked up the phone during the hardest year of his life and asked you how you were doing. He was a father who loved his family and the Lord Jesus Christ more than anything else in this world. He didn't slow down when things got hard. He didn't stop showing up. He never lost who he was. Some people fill a room. Jon filled an arena, and he filled the lives of everyone who was lucky enough to know him.
Get your motor running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. I like smoking lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We can climb so high, I never wanna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild. Get your motor running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We can climb so high, I never wanna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild.
Make sure that when you leave this earth that you leave a footprint on it. And I think my biggest goal is I feel like my success or my value will come if I have a full church. What I want to die with is, and I feel that I'll be the richest at, is relationships. I want real friends. I want close family. And I just want everybody to celebrate the fact that we had time together in this however many years of my life.
We're going to open it up for you guys. Carol right over here is going to be the keeper of the timer. You have 2 minutes, but we'd like you to come up and share a Johnism, an experience. You know, the last couple weeks, Jon was with us. I had the chance to spend some time with him face to face. For coming. As I said, it's not a memorial, it's a celebration. Let's share stories. And if they need to be ones that make us cry, so be that too. So I love you all for showing up. And our first speaker is going to be Craig Bolerjack.
Wow. Good to see everybody here. I want to thank the Absey family for even putting me on the stage. I've known Jon a long time, and I do want to thank Andy right now, who has been an integral part to get this day together, and also such a support to Jon during a very difficult time. Please give your love to Andy. Thank you. You know, as we start, I just thought about one thing. For just 1 second, maybe 5, let's just close our eyes. Close your eyes and think of Jon. All right, just close your eyes and think of Jon. Okay? Now, when you open them, I hope I see smiles, because really, that's who Jon was. That's what Jon wanted, was smiles. That's what he did for people every day. I watched him all the time. Over the years. I think Shauna would agree, in the family, he did not have a turn-off switch. She just laughed. It was go, go, go. I mean, it's just amazing energy the man had. You know, I knew Jon. I watched Jon do his craft. It was night after night. It was day after day. There was no really fatigue I ever saw in Jon Absey. It was just nothing but pure joy. And I think this has been said a lot, that he was a man in a costume, but in reality, he made the costume come alive because of who he was. It was his life's work. I remember my wife this morning told me to tell the family hello, and that when she looked at Jon, she always knew inside. I know he loved his family dearly. I know that you loved the community, and because of you here today, you loved him. You loved him. The one thing that always stood out for me was Jon helped raise countless amounts of money for multiple charities. Amazing. The one thing that really touched my heart, that he took underprivileged kids on a yearly Christmas shopping spree. And I thought, wow, he just made a young girl or boy's Christmas happy. In other words, it maybe wouldn't have been. And that also meant adults. I went on a couple of stories with him up to the hospitals, and, you know, going through those rooms at the hospital aren't easy. But boy, he could light up a room. And he also stopped by schools and hundreds of businesses popping his confetti cannon that drove everybody frickin' nuts because they had to bring in a janitor later to clean up the floor. You guys have probably been a part of that. Sean, I got to ask you this. Jon sacrificed his body, knees, backs, shoulders, hands, fingers, you name it. He did it. He always pushed the limit, too. You guys remember the stilts? Yeah. Remember the ladders where you held your breath and thought, good God, he's going down? Rappelling from the highest of highs, sledding down stairs, only to jump up, take that little tumble roll, which is signature move, clap. A kid. He said, let's do this. So I followed him. And I just said, okay, I get what you're doing. Well, okay, I understand what you want to do. So he wanted a candy bar out of a snack machine. He shook it, and it wouldn't come out. It's a typical scam, you know, where you put your money in, like on Seinfeld, where George doesn't get his candy bar. And he kept shaking it. So he calls me in to help, and I pull out a $1 bill, and I slip that thing into the candy machine. I got his candy bar and mine. I guess part of the shtick of the skit. Well, the man in the costume was mad. He did a great job acting, by the way. So Jon shook that candy machine like with so much conviction, I'll never forget it, that he ended up dislocating his finger. I mean, it's sideways out. Took the glove off, and I go, good golly, Jon, I'll be back in a minute. He was, holding back tears. Comes back, he says, let's do that again. I said, you're kidding me. No, I taped it up, I'm fine. I said, all right. And he came back for another take, and he had the same passion that he did in the first take. I'll be honest with you, the first take was fine, but he wanted to do it a second time. I got to talk about Jon's fight through cancer. I've never seen a guy fight harder. I really compare the fight to the way he shook the candy machine with strength, determination, no quit attitude. Coach, you would have loved him on the football field, by the way, because that's the way he fought. He fought. To the man and the family who had helped so many. I hope everyone here today remembers Jon for all the good that he did, his beautiful, nonstop zest for life. I want you to remember his family, and maybe the best blessing of all was that he was able to hold his new grandson during the Christmas holidays before things got a little worse down the road. My final thought is when I called or texted him, sometimes he answered, sometimes he didn't, and I understood. But every time that he did, and the last time I talked to him over the phone, he always, as Andy said, ended the call with, quote, "What can I do for you?" I said, Jon, are you kidding me? We're here to help you. But Jon said, what can I do for you? And despite his failing health, I have to say that was Jon Absey. And I'll say this, we're all better to have known the man. All better. And I just want to say, God bless you, Jon. I wish you'd be at the game tonight. Maybe you will. But God bless. Thank you.
The next speaker we have is Dan Roberts. Dan was the in-arena announcer for the Utah Jazz for 46 years. Knew Jon from his very first appearance and used to kibitz with him all the time and used to use some colorful language back and forth with Jon. But the big thing is, I'm sure he's got a story or two to tell.
Boulder Jack, that's the most emotion out of you I've ever seen. And the sincerity of the emotion got me here too. As the nice man just said, I finished season number 46 just last April. And for 46 years, it was NBA basketball, Jazz, blah, blah, blah. But one of the highlights of that 46 years was the 25 that I knew Jon. He and I worked together. It was very amazing. He would come up and tell me what he was going to do. I would highlight it, and he'd give me a big hug, and he'd always come over and let me know that he could count on me. I can't always quote, well, actually, I won't quote the way we talk to each other occasionally, because we did get colorful every now and then, because that's just the way Jon was. He figured me out real quick. The end result of his friendship and his abilities, like Craig said, were just off the chart. I could not believe how good and how loving he was. And his family, I honor you, each and every one of you. You're so full of love. And you have that love that he gave you, and you get to show everybody else that love as well. And I honor that, all of you. The one time that I remember the most, well, actually, it was a couple of times. He came up to me one game, and he just got into costume. And you'll forgive me, I will be a little candid with this. But he said, Roberts, I have no idea what we're going to do. I haven't a foggy idea. I don't know what in the hell we're going to do. We just sat down and created something with Jon and I, and then Alan Handy was there at the time, and we just got together and put, I don't even remember what we did, but he said, I think that'll work. And he made it work, and it was just, without script, without any care or concern, he just put it together, and it just went amazing. I have a couple of things that I remember that I wanted to pass along, because sometimes he would scare the hell out of me with his skills. The one thing I remember that really got, the first thing that I saw him do was to come down from the roof, the ceiling of the arena, straight head down on a wire that was bolted to, secured to the floor. He did that quite a few times until the NBA said, no, you won't do that anymore. And he stopped doing it. But then he came from the back, slid down on the wire again, and did another one that, again, they took a couple of moments and said, you can't do that anymore either. He had no fear. The one time I remember him coming down on the sled that I'll never forget was how he bounced at the bottom. And I watched his head, and I thought it was going to unscrew and fall off. But it was just amazing that he got up and I knew he was a little shook up, but he got up and walked away. I made a note of a couple of things that were kind of fun. Remember the slingshot? He would get down at the end of the baseline. They'd pull him back and then let it go as he went down to the bowling pins. He never got a strike. I can't remember him ever getting a strike, and I gave him a great deal of crap about that too. The Little Bears. You remember the Little Bears? They would here, and here. And he would come out with an official there that he'd already talked to, and he had all the Little Bears kick the official in the shoe, each and every one of them. And it was just amazing how he got away with that. But he set that all up with the officials prior to the game, and they were all very gracious to help him out as well. Another amazing one, and you might remember this, I do with a reasonable amount of clarity. He got up to the very top level where Frank used to sit with Barbara, had a cake, about that big around. He got to the railing, looked down, and tossed it down on a guy's head down below. Unbelievable. It exploded on his head when it hit him. He was set up, but at the same time, I'm sure he had cake impregnated within every inch of his body plus his clothing. It was really quite funny. Another time, I mean, again, like Craig was saying, his courage was unbelievable. He'd go to the top of a 20-foot ladder at center court, make sure the guys held all four legs, get down, and he got up with one arm and he balanced himself and still held a flag and got down, and he would slide down the back of the ladder. I used to just look at that in absolute awe. I would have cried if I'd have been at the top. Let's see, the other one that was, do you remember when he could get on top of the backboard, get behind the basket, look down, and put himself through the basket? I watched him the first time. He did a split that pretty well made him vertical from top to bottom, went right through the basket, and I went, how in the name of heaven did that happen? And he did it repeatedly too. He just looked at it, got himself squared up, and dropped through the hoop. One of my other favorites was during the championship series with the Bulls. He got on the motorcycle and he would roll around in it during a timeout. But then he'd look at Phil Jackson, who was sitting there talking to the team with Michael and all the other guys of the Bulls in that era. And Jon would back up the motorcycle and fire it up. And just, you'll forgive me for being candid, he pissed off Jackson so bad that he went to the league to tell him to stop doing that. But Jon kept doing it. And, it took an act of Congress before he would quit. I loved that. I thought that was amazing. Phil Jackson was not one of my favorite human beings because of his minor amount of arrogance that he had. But Jon took care of that with the motorcycle. He said, I could hear him say, I can't hear a guy singing. I could just hear him swear like crazy. The other one that was really quite amazing was sumo wrestlers came out in their garb, and they were huge. And he came out in a very, very short swing trunk. No top, no other thing. And they beat the holy living crap out of him. And it was very fun to watch him try to keep one of them going. The other one that I remember distinctly, we had 3 officials, and there was a timeout. And one of the officials, he had obviously talked to them before. One of the officials was, they came back on the court after the timeout. Nobody was watching, but there was a smaller of the 3. And Jon started dancing and doing stuff. And he just kept pointing to the officials. And the little guy took off everything he had on. And he was down to just a trunks. And he did nothing but dance. And he just threw himself all over the court. It was just really quite amazing. And Jon walked off with that one, too. That worked out very well. I've never met anybody, like Craig said. Jon and I, we talked periodically, but he would always come over and give me a hug. And it was always a thing I look forward to. And hugging him back was a sincere motivation for me. I loved him dearly. And his family as a group of people that I honor completely, all of you. There'll never be another human being in my life that will be equivalent to him. And I loved him dearly. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Our next speaker is Coach Ron McBride, a community treasure and somebody. My relationship with Coach is all because of Jon. So come on out.
There you go, sir.
Well, I appreciate being here. Okay, first of all, you know, this hat mafu, which is a special meaning for special people. And to you, this North Dakota girl, was it North Dakota State or North Dakota? State, yeah, because we had an argument about that, right? Yeah. And you made sure that I didn't say the other North Dakota, right? But you are the best lady, because you stuck by him, you were with him to the end, and your family is unique. Well, let me tell you what Mafu is about. A guy named Joe Toffemeyer, who played for the University of Arizona, very similar to Jon. He sacrificed his body as a player. He was a three-time All-American. Played 8 years in the league. Died of an overdose of opioids because his body was so beat up at the end. And I can remember speaking at his funeral in Washington about how much I loved that man, because he and Jon were the same. Risk takers, not scared to do anything, gave everything they have to everything. You know, so let's talk about what this Mafu thing is all about. First of all, it starts with mental toughness. First of all, mental toughness is just a way to battle through any problems you have. But when he had cancer, he looked at cancer as a positive thing that he could beat. He said, I got this, coach, no problem. I said, man, this is a difficult cancer. He said, no, dude, I got this. I said, okay, I'm with you. And I tell you what, they did everything possible to beat cancer. And I tell you what, his wife and family were there every day, sleeping in a tent in the backyard. I can picture that. I said, where are you, dude? He said, oh, I'm in the backyard in my tent. I said, what are you doing back there? He says, well, we're just hanging out. I said, well, okay. But he did everything to beat cancer. Never gave up, never gave in. He was the best mascot of any mascot I've ever seen. Of all the different places I've worked, no mascot compared to Jon. And he was a giver, not a taker. He'd always ask you, what can I do for you? You know, when do you need me there? He was always there. And then the A stands for attitude. Okay, nobody more positive than this guy. And I tell you what, he beat the shit out of his body. You know, I mean, I'm thinking, you can't be that stupid, you know. And, you know, but I've been in this stupid business for 55 years. So I understand what stupid is, yeah. But this guy, his ankles, his knees, his shoulders, his back. I mean, he was probably more effed up than I am, okay? But you know what? His attitude was he was positive about everything, you know? I mean, even when I remember we had lunch one day, he and his wife and a couple other people, and I knew he wasn't feeling good, but he did everything he was completely asking, what can I do for you to help you? I said, man, I've tried everything. Nobody can help me. He said, yeah, come on, coach. get with it, you know. But he was, you know, he dared to do anything. He earned respect. He set an example of how you do things. And he had an attitude that was unbelievable. The F stands for fanatical effort. He was totally a risk taker. I mean, no matter what challenge he had with the bear, he was going to be the best. No challenge was too big, and he was always there. The interesting thing is, I would go to different places that the Jazz were playing, and I'd be recruiting, and if they were in town, I'd go to the game. But inevitably, somebody would ask me if I knew the bear. I said, yeah, I know the bear. He said, well, who is he? I said, cat's name's Jon, okay? and when they say, this guy's unbelievable, I said, yeah, well, he's crazy. You know, legitimately, he needs to be, you know, put in one of those places where people don't think too well. But and they would say, well, what's he like? I said, well, he'll do anything, and he'll try anything. That's why he's the best at what he does, because he was Jon being Jon. It was like Joe being Joe, you know. I mean, that's just who they are. You know, this dude is just different and special. He's different and special because he would give up his body for his profession and give up his mind for his profession. He was a guy who say he's all in. Unity is the you part of it. I can remember all the different events I've had. He always showed. And Frank was the greeter, and Jon was the entertainment. I'd be out there, he'd be climbing on top of golf carts. He'd be in guys' laps, girls' laps, you know, spraying that stuff. And he said, well, I said, just be you. And so he would be himself. But the guy, he left a legacy. He'll never be forgotten because he was one of a kind as a mascot and one of a kind as a person. And I took this, I'm going to read it, and I hope and this is who he is and who he was. Class never runs scared. It is sure-footed and confident in the knowledge that you can meet life head on and handle whatever comes along. Jacob had it. Absey didn't. Symbolically, we can look to Jacob's wrestling with the angel, and those who have class have wrestled with their own personal angel and won a victory. Jon had his own personal angel. His wife was his personal angel. Class never makes excuses. It takes lumps and learns from the mistakes. Now, Jon gave up his body, but I don't think he ever learned. You know, don't be stupid, you know. But I don't think he ever learned that one. You know, he was very stupid at some of the stuff he would do. You know, I hate to say that, but I say, man, Jon, you're all effed up, man. Class respects an accuracy that has nothing to do with ancestors or money. The most influent blue blood can be totally without class, while the descendants of Welch Winter, we once a class out of every board. This guy was class from the start to the end. Class never tries to build itself up by tearing others down. Class is already up and need and strive to look better by making others look worse. Class can walk with kings and keep its virtue, can talk with crowds and keep its common touch. Everyone is comfortable with a person who has class, and everybody was comfortable with Jon because he made him feel that way. If you have class, you don't need much of anything else. But what is gone but will never be forgotten is this man was unique and he was special. And he was special because he was different. He was different of how he did things. He was a risk taker. And there was nothing he wouldn't try to do. And it is with great respect I speak to you today, because this was a special human being to the family. The dude was special. So, don't let me fall because, nobody ever touched you.
What do you say after that? I've asked Shauna and any of his girls to get up and say a few words. But before she does, I need to say, for the last year, this family, the cohesiveness, I've been able to witness it. Shauna was a champion in every single regard of Jon's illness. The girls were always there. I would go, hey, dude, I'm going to come by. No, I'm going to hang out with the family. He was an amazing individual. I loved him. He was my brother from another mother. And because of him, I have this family right here. I can't tell you how much I respect them, how much I love them, what I witnessed them go through, but I would love to hear all of them talk. But Lexi's kind of looking like, no. Shauna, would you come up and say a few words? And then we've got a few videos to share, and then we want to hear from all of you.
Ooh, okay. I think I'm speaking on behalf of the family, but you never know, they may surprise you. First off, I just want to say that we are absolutely so grateful. We felt the love and the prayers and the support through this whole thing. It was just amazing. Messages we would get, acts of kindness, encouragement like you wouldn't believe, meant more than we could ever say. But thank you for all of that. And just so you know, your compassion has never gone unnoticed. As much as we would love to reach out to every single one of you and give you hugs and tell you how grateful we are, I know that's impossible, but just so you know, we are very thankful. The girls and I are just trying to navigate our life without the husband, the father, the grandfather. We're just continuing to feel the strength. There's all of this and people talking and people reaching out, and we just can't thank you enough. I wish I could thank every single one of you, but our core friends, our friends who have always been there for us, thank you for being there. Our new friends, we've met a lot of new people that we consider friends, people that are doing events like this. Jeremy Beck went out of his way and did a bunch of things that we're grateful for. And of course, Andy. What can you say about Andy? He doing events like this, reaching out to people, checking in. We are so blessed to have all of you guys in our corner. And I guess that's all I'm going to say, but we just wanted you to know that we are thankful and we love you all. Thank you.
I'm not much of a speaker. I just feel like if he was here, he'd be like, Lexi, come on, go, go. So I'll talk on behalf of my sisters and me. So when I think about my dad, I think about how the world saw him like as the bear and as Jon, but like we saw him as dad. Like he was our father. He was someone we looked up to. He's someone who made us laugh. As I was like thinking about how his life had gone and how growing up had been, and I realized he spent the first half of his life building the bear, building his career, building relationships, and then he spent the second half rebuilding time with us that he had given. He was the center of attention, but he was a magnet. He didn't demand it. He was just given to him. Something that I will never forget, and I think my sisters would agree, is every day for school when he dropped us off, we were terrified. He would try to embarrass us by dropping us off and saying, don't forget to change your diaper at lunch, or he would turn the radio on and turn his hat to the side and blast just like rap music and just like act like he's a thug. I don't know. He would do this like head bob, and all of our friends would be like, who's that? And we would be, I don't know. But he kept everything interesting. One thing he did do every day though that he reminded us is he would say, do something nice for someone today. Every day. And then when we'd get home, he'd ask, what did you do? Would you do that was nice for someone? And so I think that was, I never realized that wasn't a normal, like that was just how he was, and that's just how we were raised, was to think like that. One thing that I laugh at is everyone sees him as this man who could level out people on the court, but at home, he stood no chance against me, my mom and my sisters. There's 4 of us versus him. And I think he wouldn't have had it any other way. Craig was talking about how he dislocated his finger. Again, having 3 girls, we would have all of our friends over. We'd be in the backyard, and he was doing yard work, and he ran around the corner with his finger out to the side, chasing all of us and all of our friends. And we're all just like screaming, but his body was beat up, but he made it fun. He did a lot of things like that, where he would make up songs as he was just walking around the house about people. He I don't know. He kept things interesting and fun, and he had so much energy, and at the end he was very tired, and I think he finally got the rest that he probably needed to do more of. But it was special to have that time with him. I think it made all of us slow down and just remembered that family is really important. And I think it brought us all closer in a lot of ways, friends and family, and yeah, that's thank you. Yeah.
So at Jon's memorial, Grant Harrison, who couldn't be here today, was the VP that hired Jon. And he did a video of that speech for us. I'm going to play that. And then Garrett and Caitlin Nielsen did a video. And then a couple of the players did videos that I'll play for you. Then what we'd like to do is invite people to come on up. And Carol will be the keeper of the timer. She'll be up here. You'll see it. You'll see green light, yellow light, red light, and you got 2 minutes to share. But share, please. And I don't care if it's something funny or something emotional. We've got people in the house like little Finn here who just came to event after event because his parents were that kind of people. They brought him all the time. And back there, we have Eliana, same thing. She came to Christmas shops. They did everything, but it was all service related. So once again, you know, we all are here for one reason. I want everybody in here who thought Jon was their best friend to raise their hand. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to play the videos and then I want you guys to share. Is that cool? All right, here we go.
What's the first thing you think of when you see a confetti cannon like this one and a can of silly string? The jazz bear, of course, his weapons of mass entertainment. If you came in contact with the bear anywhere, at any time, you were likely to get doused with silly string and sprayed with confetti. That was the sign that he liked you, unless you were a fan of the opposing team, however. In 25 years, some 150,000 cans of silly string and 100,000 confetti cannons have been deployed by the bear. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Grant Harrison. I hired the bear in 1993 and was his boss for 20 plus years. I could not begin to mention all the wonderful things he did to entertain us at games and for all the charity work he did in the community. He performed in over 800 jazz games, only missing 4 in his entire career, and 2 of those games were for the funerals of his parents. When I first started my career in sports with the Utah Stars of the AVA, the owner of the team, Bill Daniels at the time, pulled me aside and told me something that shaped my sports career and ultimately Jon's career years later. He said, "Grant, remember, we are not in the basketball business. We are in the entertainment business." Jon was the ultimate entertainer. There was no other mascot in any sport better at pure entertainment than Jon. He could literally do everything except sing. I told Jon it was his job to entertain, and my job was to keep him out of jail and keep the Jazz from getting sued because of his crazy antics. He changed mascotting forever. His induction to the Mascot Hall of Fame confirmed that. What most people don't know, however, is that we were extremely lucky, and I believe extremely blessed, to have had Jon as the Bear in Utah for 25 years. 2 other NBA teams wanted to hire Jon after we conducted tryouts for a mascot. Those 2 other teams were Sacramento and Seattle. After tryouts, Jon thought that none of the teams wanted him because the other candidates that performed in the tryouts were so much better. He went back home thinking his chances of being a professional mascot were doused. 2 weeks later, however, he got offers from all 3 teams. Stunned and unsure about leaving the security of his small town, he didn't respond to any of the 3 offers. After a week, I had a strong feeling I should call him personally. I was sure he was the one we wanted to be the Jazz mascot. Luckily, he hadn't accepted any of the other offers. I talked to him for a very long time. I talked to him about the importance of family and relationships. I assured him we would all work to become his substitute family. I told him he could go home at any time he wanted if it didn't work out. It worked out better than either of us could ever have expected. On November 4th, 1994, the Bear debuted at the Delta Center, repelling from the ceiling. And of course, as they say, the rest is history. Being Jon's boss was a little like being in charge of a child wanting to play dress up, who took your credit card to buy explosives and various other toys that could injure themselves or others at any moment. We had to have an incredible shared trust to do what we did in those 20 years. When we would get in trouble, I would bail him out, smooth it over, and we would end it with a fist bump like partners in crime. Did he worry me sometimes? Yes, but I trusted him and he trusted me. We were always there for each other. It was fun, it was thrilling, and scary, and something I could never forget. I am forever grateful for him and his decision to trust me and come to Utah, so all of us got to experience the best mascot and man the NBA has ever known, the one and the only Jon Absey, Utah Jazz Bear.
A lot can be said about Jon Absey. He was the man who put on the suit and made an entire arena forget about their worries, who climbed ladders that were too tall, launched off trampolines and dreamed up stunts that nobody would let him do, and a few they probably shouldn't have. He was 25 years of laughs, standing ovations. He gave every single thing he had to people he'd never meet and kids who'd remember him forever. He gave humanity to the Bear, but that was just who he was. Because away from the lights and the noise, he was the same man. The one who picked up the phone during the hardest year of his life and asked you how you were doing. He was a father who loved his family and the Lord Jesus Christ more than anything else in this world. He didn't slow down when things got hard. He didn't stop showing up. He never lost who he was. Some people fill a room. Jon filled an arena, and he filled the lives of everyone who was lucky enough to know him.
Make sure that when you leave this earth that you leave a footprint on it. And I think my biggest goal is I feel like my success or my value will come if I have a full church. What I want to die with is, and I feel that I'll be the richest at, is relationships. I want real friends. I want close family. And I just want everybody to celebrate the fact that we had time together in this however many years of my life.
From the Foster family, we just want to share our deepest condolences with the Absey family. We have so many fond memories of Jon and the great years we had as the Jazz organization. I could tell you that even though we had some wonderful success on the court, my kids had absolutely no concern about going to see Dad play, but they did want to go see the Bear. Jon put smiles on the faces of many throughout the years, including mine. We were always excited to see what his next trip was going to be, and oftentimes got caught not paying attention during the game. So that's the kind of effect Jon had on kids, adults, players alike, and he was an incredible human being. So he'll be missed tremendously, and I'm sorry that I lost a really good friend. So again, I wish the Absey family well during this tough time. We love you guys, and be blessed.
This is a video about Jon Absey. I wanted to talk about how important he was to the Jazz Nation, both from a personal standpoint and a physical standpoint. He was unbelievable with what he did as the Bear. But more than that, knowing him personally, what he did and how his enthusiasm and athleticism was unbelievable. It comes to note that he went down to Navajo Santa with Ann and myself to visit the Navajo Nation and put up basketball standards and swing sets and so forth, and really helped and got to know that part of the world. Just want people to know that he's going to be missed, but he will always be remembered.
Jon's life, but I'm honored to be asked by Andy to say a few words about our friend Jon. 6.5, in 1994, I was traded to the Utah Jazz, and for 6.5 years, our team enjoyed tremendous success on the court. Stockton and Malone were the stars when the clock was running, but Jon the Bear was the star when the clock was off. And, it's from him, I just think back about some of the things that he was doing. The clapping and the leading the cheers to standing on the 30-foot ladder and doing handstands and coming out on the motorcycle with all that noise, which I think I'm part deaf now. To sliding down the stairs, who can ever forget that? And him coming down the rope, I think in the early days from the rafters. All those things were great for us because it got the crowd going. So as important as players may be, he was probably just as important as any of us because from what he did to get the crowd going, it not only fired us up, I think it really distracted the other team. In fact, there are a lot of times, Jerry Sloan was a stickler for being focused. And I can remember a lot of times where I was kind of peeking over the huddle to see what was going on and what Jon had up his bag of tricks. But, as great as he was as the Bear, he was even a better person. If you think about all the things that when people wear costumes, it seems like they're playing a part. But Jon wasn't. From the times, any interactions you had with him where, he was with the fans or the referees or maybe at the charity events, to even when my kids in the tunnel, when he'd clown around with them, those interactions are Jon. That's his personality. He loved to make people happy, loved to make people smile. And, that was how he carried his life. I think about, there was a game the Utah Jazz game not too long ago where he was in town, I was in town. He came to the game, and this was after he had treatments, and he had lost, 30 or 40 pounds or whatever it was. And I was able to spend the second half with him just upstairs in a suite with him and his buddies, just talking. And, when we're out there talking, he's talking about his family and how much he loves them and how great they are. And we're talking about what they're up to. And, then I asked him about what's going on with his treatments. And he wanted to just cover that briefly. He talked about it for a few minutes, the fight he's in. And then he turned it right around and with his smile on his face the whole time, just asked how we were doing and how our family was doing. And, that was Jon. He was just trying to put a smile on everybody's face. So to Shayna and all his kids and now his granddaughter, we just want you to know how much Stacy and I and our kids, Ryan Tower and Abby, were impacted by Jon in our lives. And, he set a great example for people. And, if everyone can live the way Jon lived and treated people, it would be a better place. So thank you. And Jon, we'll remember all those memories for forever with our family. So thank you.
One quick editorial comment. Jon has a grandson, not a granddaughter, and it is Shauna, not Shayna. But, for Jeff to do that was just and this place was arranged for by him. So huge hand. And another guy, this is Rick Lindsay. And Rick Lindsay was instrumental in helping us with Jon's care. And he flies under the radar, but he's my hero. Kent Crawford with Channel 2, George with Channel 4. They backed us every step of the way. Every time I made a phone call, they put us on TV to help with Jon. Anyways, God bless you guys. Thank you for coming. Please share. Rick's team, Parker and Neil are around here someplace, and they're going to be videoing this whole thing. You can go to X Mission Sports probably and view it. If not, just watch my feed and on Instagram, and I'll tell you where to find it. Once again, thank you for coming. Thank you for putting up your hand and being John's best friend. And please come and share.
Hi, my name is Casey Scott, and John has been my best friend for as long as I can remember. We've got a kind of a crazy story together because we were all thrown together by Mr. Andy Chudd. I was the feature reporter for Channel 2, and he was the bear. And we showed up at a window store, and he was hitting golf balls through windows, and we fast became best friends. And what the crazy thing is that John was the kind of guy that if you needed something, all you had to do was ask. And if he said yes, it was as good as done. He was always there, the first one to get there and the last one to leave. This is a weird story for me because 8 years ago, I was leaving rehab, and it was the darkest moment of my life. And the first person to call me, and he had just left the Jazz, was Jon Absey. And he goes, "What can I do for you, bud?" And I go, "I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out where I go next." He goes, "How about I buy you a burger?" I go, "That sounds great. You're going to have to pick me up. I don't have a license." He goes, "Send me your address." And he did. And from there on, anything I ever needed, he would help me get it. He got me jobs. He got me the confidence to get back into doing what I do and what I love. And his friendship meant the world to me. And so I look out there and I can see the impact that he's had on a lot of you. And I love what everyone's saying about John, because John is that kind of guy. What can I do for you? So I'm going to read you my last text with John. I wrote, "I love you, brother." He writes, "Love you back. How you been? Hope you're doing amazing. Let me know if I can help you out in any way." This is while he's battling cancer. I go, "Stop it, man. Let me know what you need. Do you need a back rub? Maybe a front rub? Whatever it is, I got you." He writes back, "Interesting. Well, let me see which one my wife won't do, and you can do the other one." I mean, that's John right there. You know what I mean? And I always see, I'm up here and I'm pouring my soul, and I just think about him and I tell a story and I'm smiling. That's the effect John had. And I love him. I miss him. And if there's anything you guys can do, it's time to let us do some stuff for you. So all honor to his name. He was a great man. Thank you.
Brother Ferris just texted me and asked if everybody could speak over there so there's a little bit more light for photography, please. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Wayne, and there's two things that John did not know. He did not know how to say no. Whenever you asked him, he would say yes. Second thing, he didn't know how to, he didn't know what the cost of a tire was, okay? Back in the spring of '95, he came to approach me. He says, "Hey, Wayne, I want to take your motorcycle out for a ride and see if I like it. I got an idea." And so we met at the store, and he pulled out the motorcycle, and I said, "Do you know how to ride this thing?" He says, "Oh, yeah, sure. No problem." He says, "I've been doing it on dirt bikes and everything else." And so I said, "Okay, here's my bike. Turn it on." And he pops the clutch, smokes the tire. And I'm thinking, holy shit, this guy's going to wreck my bike. And then he went around the parking lot, came back, and he goes, with his big smile on his face, "I got a really great idea." And so from there on out, he got a motorcycle. Thanks to Grant's credit card, we sold lots of tires. And that's my little fun story about John.
Hey, I'm talking right now. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Weiniger, and I was wonderful friends with John. When it comes to friends, John always said it's better to have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. And John was one of my 4 quarters. It's going to be hard. Okay. We spent a lot of time together. I was lucky. We used to run our dogs together every night and tell stories. And we were going to save the world. We talked about business. We talked about religion. We talked about starting businesses. We tried a couple times, didn't go so well. I remember when he goes, hey, we should start a business. Let's do a mortuary. And like, we'd go out of business the first month. Everybody would come in and you'd say, I'm so sorry, it's free. And it wouldn't work. We'd be out of business, so we're not doing the mortuary. And, you know, from all these other things, but we had so much fun together. And I miss my buddy. Anyways, I loved his funeral when he said, who's John's friend? And everybody raised their hand. This goes viral, but if you ask John who's his best friend, he only had 4. He had 4 best friends. I'm sitting right up here. You can throw in a couple husbands. We talked about the boyfriend. From all the lunches we had, and we had hundreds of them, and the traveling and the fun, there was only one common denominator. It wasn't mascotting. It was just girls. There was not a single conversation I know about. I know about soccer. I know about dance. I know about all the crap that goes on behind the scenes and the drama with dance. And that's what John's life was about. It wasn't about being in the suit. It wasn't about having fun. It wasn't about entertaining people. He only had one priority in his life. And it was his family right here. And at the end, came in the little boy. I remember we were having lunch. He was like, Jeff, I got to make it to see my grandson. I got to make it to see my grandson. And that was another joy. And that made him happy. And I'll tell you, we used to have this deal. We said, if either of us get cancer, believe it or not, we talked about this. He goes, I don't want to spend that last month in a bed. He goes, what we're going to do, and we came up with our plan, is we're going to take about 20 shots of adrenaline, and we're going to trade in that last 30 days of horribleness, and we're going to trade in for 1 day of glory. And we're going to steal a plane and some squirrel suits, and we're going to go flying, man. We're going to go out with a bang. And then the second thing we talk about when we died is, we want to go out worn out, busted up. We want to slide into heaven and say, woo, that was a great ride. What's next? And that kind of changed because when reality hit, it didn't come down to, hey, what's going to be one last hurrah? It was fight like hell to stay with his family. That's all he worried about. And I'll tell you, I spent some good time with him. And Shauna turned over every stone there was. She fought down every trail there was to try to find a cure for this. There's no regrets there. There was every single thing she could do. And it's just life. But I'll tell you, when John slid into heaven, I think there was people there to greet him. There's some smiles. But I'll tell you this, as we mourned him and we cried on this side, John was over there crying like crazy, fighting to get back because he wanted to be with his 4 best friends and his little grandson. Throw in a couple husbands and a boyfriend right there. But that was John. And he was breaking the rules to say, I'm going back. And they're like, no, once you cross over, you got to stay over here. If there's anybody that finds a way back, if you ever hear some creaking in your upstairs attic, it's John. He did it. He found a way to come back and haunt and be with his family, to be with his girls. Because that's what life was to him. It wasn't the entertainment. It wasn't he loved the glory, loved the friends, but he loved his family. And that's what counted. And he taught that to me every day, every time we went out. There was never a single lunch, there was never a single travel or party or appearance that we did together where we didn't catch up on each other. And that's what we talked about. I love my friend John. He does love everybody in this room, but he loves this front row. And you guys are the best. I love you very much. Goodbye.
My husband's probably wondering what in the heck you don't jump up for anybody to speak. But for John, I do. And for Jason, I'm sorry. I stole your tissue out of the bathroom. So I heard about John's story. My name is Corinne Carver, by the way. I heard about John's story on a news channel. I won't say which one since you're both here. And I don't take favorites, but I made a call and I said, I want to help. And everyone here I know knows that it doesn't matter how long you've known John. You feel like you've known him your entire life. And I learned very quickly that John was in control. Because even in our center where we keep it we offered some hyperbaric sessions for him and then put a chamber in his home in those last days. And our center, we're very private and we want to respect the integrity of our clients. And that went out the window when John showed up. And, but what a blessing it was. Andy coming in, Coach. We finally, the doors were closed, but when John's coming in, they're open because you don't know who's coming in with John. And we had Miami Heat mascots, the Houston Rockets mascots. I mean, it was a flood. I am so incredibly blessed to this day to have met John. And yes, he was fearless. He had no fears in everyone's eyes, but he trusted me. I got to see this grown man in his fears. And I will never, ever, ever forget that. Because he did have fears and he fought past all of those. So I will be forever grateful. My husband and I love him so much, and Shauna and your girls. You're our family. And so thank you for everyone for letting us be a part of your family. Love you so much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sean. I want to direct my comments to Shauna and John's family. Jon Absey was the GOAT. He's a legend. He's iconic, and there will never be another human being quite like John. And I want to apologize also in advance a little bit if I'm a little low energy, not as enthusiastic. It's because I've been in bed for the last 48 hours and battling something nasty, and I really thought, you know what? I went to the beautiful memorial. I'm just going to sit this one out. And then thought about your dad, thought about John. Up to the very last minute, he was actually dying and showed up for everyone all the time. And I thought, you know what? You only feel like you're dying. The least you can do, show up for John and share a few things that were so meaningful to me. I want to tell you just a few stories. There's so many, but share a couple of them that were impactful to me. I met John back in 1998, I think, through Corey Hasagawa, Diana Gibson. Back then, it was fun times. We were all young, all energetic, never as energetic as John. And I'm glad we've blown through the 2-minute limit because I think I'm already there, and I want to share these. The first is emblematic of his fearlessness. So as you know, John had a total disregard for not only his personal safety, but protocols and decorum. So one time, John thought it was a good idea to break into the state capitol House of Representatives building while they were in session to blow off one of his confetti cannons and silly string. Little did he realize how many members were packing, and within seconds or milliseconds, there were 3 red dots trained on the Jazz Bear because everyone thought that this was some terrorist who had broken in. And then the words, wait, it's the Jazz Bear. Don't hurt the Jazz Bear. Again, that was John. Loved him for that fearlessness. But if he thought there was a cause, he would do anything to help those that needed his help. He invited me to his wonderful Christmas event with Andy, and Andy really helped me reconnect with John through Mascot Miracle Bowl and the toy events, and we did a lot together. John said, hey, you're a rookie at this event, come with me and I'll show you how it's done. So we go with some shopping carts and we help these kids who may not otherwise have much for the holidays, and we let them choose what they want. And within a few minutes, John had loaded up like 5 carts worth of stuff. And I said, John, isn't there a limit of like $400 or something? And he said, yeah, I think so. But that's just a rule that, I said, John, isn't it what the kids want that we're supposed to be putting in the baskets? He's just shoving stuff from every aisle. I think we had maybe like 6 or 7 baskets full of stuff. And again, if it meant bringing extra joy and happiness to someone, then rules were just a suggestion to John. But I think that story just demonstrates to me the depth of his generosity and gigantic heart. This particular one is so much more personal because in 2020, I was in the midst of a tough re-election. I'd never been challenged in a primary election. My dad had been battling cancer for 2 years, and I'd been taking care of him in California. And because of COVID rules, there were a lot of restrictions. It was a really tough time trying to shuttle back and forth between Utah and California. And you know that political environment can be sometimes tough and challenging. And when my dad finally passed in 2020, I received literally thousands of condolences from friends around the world, texts, emails, but only a few phone calls. And I think most of them told me, look, we didn't want to bother your family. We wanted to let you have time. Well, John didn't care. He called. He was one of the few phone calls I got because who cares about protocols and decorum when your friend's in need, they may need your voice and your help. And I needed it then. And John talked me through a really, really, perhaps the most difficult time in my whole life. When you lose your hero, which was my dad, an anchor, and you feel like there's just this gigantic hole. Man, was it great to have Jon Absey there to fill that hole. And the last thing I'll mention is in my line of work for many years at the state, it was a very dark environment. We dealt with fighting crime. I liked what Grant said. He and John were partners in crime. Well, John and I were partners in fighting crime. And Andy, again, too, was so much a part of that. Sorry to keep dragging you into this, Andy. I know it's about John, but you're indelibly connected in that. And so what did John do? Up until the last day that he was the Jazz Bear, whenever we had children who had been abused, children that we had rescued from horrible circumstances, human trafficking and other really unspeakable environments, or kids who were refugees and who hadn't been able to integrate, or children with special needs who just needed a little bit of extra light, children who had contemplated or ideated suicide and were really dealing with hard times. We'd take them to the Jazz games. I don't know still to this day if the Jazz knew about all of that, but John made sure that it happened, and they were on the floor, and they had special access, and they were made to feel like the most important and special people on earth. And that compassion and that sense of being a light, or maybe better said, reflecting God's light to other people, and just bringing hope and making sure that every person felt like they were valued and enough and special, was what I'll always remember. And I want you to know that we'll always remember John. And if anybody ever messes with you or your family, you've got a lot of us here to stand with you and protect you and defend you. Now I know they're going to send Coach up here pretty soon to pull me off because I've gone way over time. I think Ronnie Mack could still take me right now. So Coach, before you have to come up and pull me off, let me just say, God bless you guys. All of our love and aloha from the Reyes Ohana is with you. Thank you.
We asked Finn if he just wanted to take a few moments because John meant a lot to him and he said he wanted to. So I'll let him speak, and then I'll maybe see if I have to translate.
Oh, I think he thinks he was going to read the text. Sorry. So John was amazing, and we loved him so much. And one of the texts that we shared in December, I had sent him because we hadn't sent him for a long time, and he hadn't been around a lot when Finn was mascotting. So this is the world's #1 mascot fan right here. And John was a big reason for that. You know, I think you met John when he was 2. Yeah, itty bitty, right? And so, and he didn't know who he was then. And he didn't even figure out who he was until a couple years ago. And one of my favorite memories, and this is what I was telling John, he's growing up and starting to understand his mascot job. He's figuring out that it is not just about him getting to spend more time with the mascots. He's starting to get that he's giving to the kids by spending time with them and making them smile. It's been his initiation into serving others. I have no doubt that he's learned the mascot ways, fun and giving both, from the very best of the best. He's a lucky kid, and we're grateful for your amazing example of love and service. My favorite memory of you two is when Finn saw you at Walmart a few years ago. So we were there helping out with one of the great shops, right, at Christmas time. And Finn saw you at Walmart a few years ago. He was so excited to see you and flapping like he was about to take flight. You were laughing and picked him up in a big bear hug. You told him that someday you wanted him to tell you the secret of being so happy. He didn't miss a beat. He just leaned in close and whispered, mascots. Especially because he hadn't put together that you were the OG Jazz Bear yet. He was just sharing one of his best secrets with his buddy, Jon Absey. He always called Jon Absey. He never called him, he doesn't call him Jon Absey, his full name. So we texted back and forth a little bit, and like everybody else is saying, at the end, he said, thanks for singing him a birthday song. Please give the little big man a hug from me. Please let me know what I can do to help with anything. The same thing that everybody's saying. And you knew that he would be there in a heartbeat for anything you needed. And we just, man, we love that guy. We still love that guy, you know, and we just cherish the time that we got to spend. And do you want to say anything? Okay. See, this is a picture of what our life is all the time, guys, because of this guy.
Oh. Okay, just say something real quick. Our time's up.
Son, I love you. Thank you, mascotting. Thank you, Wolf, Brian, and Brian and Andy. I love you guys.
I'm one that I never knew Jon as the bear. We came into his life after that period, and I'm mom to Eliana back there, and she's an incredible soul. And I think she was probably about 4 years old when we met Jon and came in through the Mascot Miracles Foundation. And just thinking back, I don't have any really specific memories of Jon, but just the impact that he had on my life. You know, when you come in and you've got this fragile little child with some disorder that you know nothing about, nobody knew at the time what was wrong with her, and now that we know what the diagnosis is, still nobody knows what we can expect. We don't know what to do about it. And So coming into this situation, I thought I was a good mom. And then at this point, I'm wondering, do I even know what I'm doing? This is hard. And once Jon entered our lives, he had this way of just talking to me and my husband and making us feel like we were incredible. That, this man, this larger than life man would come and he'd walk away and it's like, you don't even know what happened to you. Suddenly you believe in yourself and you feel like you can do this. And it's been a wonderful, I think we're about 10 years now of adventures and sports games and parties and all of these things where at some point I just had to realize that I didn't have to fear the worst anymore, because no matter what happened in our lives, we have lived so much more fully than I would have ever imagined for us. And I'm very grateful to Jon for being part of that and for helping me to believe that I can do this.
All right, if you guys know me, I'm definitely not one to do this, but hell, if Lexi can do it, I can do it, right? I'm big country. I'm Skipper. I'm Jeremy. I, too, was Jon's best friend. I knew Jon back in way when I did security for the Jazz. Lost track of him. Not really. He was kind of a pompous, arrogant at the time. So I kind of shied away from him for a while. But then I did a wrestling event, and Scott Lauritsen hooked us up. And he said, hey, how about we get Jon involved? I'm like, what is Jon going to do? He said, well, his connections. I said, all right, let's do it. So that's how me and Jon hooked back up, is through a pro wrestling event, of all things, right? I've got to spend the last 3-4 years really to get to know Jon the individual. And Jon the individual, yeah, we all know the occupation, but to know Jon the individual was something special. For example, let me tell you what I had for breakfast this morning. I had scrambled eggs, bacon, crisp. And I'm not talking crisp. I'm talking so crisp it falls apart crisp. I had a side of pancakes. I had coffee, a little bit of cream with honey. That was Jon. The other part I miss about not having Jon around is the phone calls of saying, hey, Skipper, can I borrow your trailer? Absolutely, come get it. Great, open your door. He was already there, okay? The one thing another thing I miss is the trips. Oh Lord, the trips. And I'm gonna take you back to March 4th, 2025, just for a second. Not to bring this crowd down. I was there at the table, we were having a business meeting, and Jon was always looking for new adventures, okay? So I hooked him up with a possible investor, and we had this business meeting, and I could tell Jon was off. I said, Jon, what the hell? I'm texting him. I'm like, Jon, what the hell? What's going on? And he sends me a text, and pardon me, I know we're in a temple. He goes, I just got told I was diagnosed with effing cancer. That is the first time I've ever seen fear in Jon's eye. I spent the next 2.5 hours with him and him saying, how am I going to tell Shauna? How am I going to tell my kids? The next day we were traveling to Phoenix. After 2.5 hours of talking in that truck, I flew out first because the plan was I fly out, I pick him up from the airport, and then we'd go see Bob Wolf and do some of the things that we were going to do. And I says, Jon, I said, how'd the talk go with Shauna last night? He goes, it went well. I says, did you tell the girls? He goes, funny thing. I'm like, funny thing? Out of something so serious? He goes, yeah. He said, Alyssa called me this morning. She said, Dad, is there something you need to tell me? I'm like, what do you mean, John? He's like, well, apparently my search engine was left on the work computer, and that's how she found out. I said, are you kidding me, bro? He's like, no. I said, no one else knows, right? I said, what about the other girls? He said, well, I ran into Sydney at the airport. And you told her? Yeah, she was on her way to Cabo. I'm like, was it Lexi or Sydney? It was Lexi, that's right. I'm like, that's how she found out, bro? Yeah, it's going to be all right, though, because we're going to beat this thing. I said, damn right we are, bro. He always, as everyone says here, he always had that positive attitude. Although he was just a couple years older, he was my mentor. He would always tell me, we had a meeting with Coach Mack and the Islanders of football team. And he says, Jeremy, you don't always got to call people out on their bullshit. Sometimes just let it ride. Coach, right? And I said, I know, I'm getting better at this. He says, you are. He says, stick with me and we'll make it better. I talked to him the Wednesday before he passed. It was always a joke about our phones and our connections. He would always say, I want your phone for your connections. I'm like, nah, man, I want your phone for your connections. He said, Jeremy, he says, I got to be real for a second, and I need you to do me a favor. I'm like, whatever it is, John, you got it. You know that. He says, I want you always to look after my girls for me. That's a promise that I've made to him, and I've reached out to Shauna several times. I will always be there for this family, no matter what. And in true like John fashion, and I mean this to everybody sitting here tonight or this afternoon, if there is anything I can do for you, let me know. Because that's the impact this man has made on me. One man can fill a church. One man has this 3 weeks after his funeral. I know I won't have a full church because I'm very private, but I will have his spirit. And that's all that matters to me. We had many talks about his family. And we all have regrets, if you will. I know more about you girls than you probably had any idea I knew. He loved you. And Shauna, I know there were some ups and downs like every marriage. And thank God my wife is the way that this is, but you are his rock. As far as Maverick and Moose go, I have treats for him. It's always been our promise, and I'll make it true. Thank you, guys. From Big Country, I'm out.
Oh man, all these stories have been so heartfelt. I feel like mine doesn't totally fit the vibe now, but I suppose we could all use a laugh, so I'll go ahead with it. But just one day, I was at the shop, me and, I don't know why I'm crying, all these stories have been so sad. But we were at the shop, me and a coworker of mine, Abby, and John comes up to us, oh, I gotta go and run an errand. I'll be back soon. We're like, okay, whatever. And he comes back, and he just seems a little bit odd. And John, are you okay? And he's kind of standing around a little uptight, kind of pacing around. John, are you all right? And he goes, I didn't take mushrooms. And we go, what? And we go, John, did you take mushrooms? He goes, yeah. And we ask, what happened? And he's like, well, I went to my appointment for his ankle. And he's like, and then I went to go pick up some stuff from a buddy of mine. And I was telling him about, the pain in my ankle. And he goes, I microdose mushrooms to help with my pain. And, let me give you some. So he gives John a loose baggie full of mushrooms and doesn't tell him how much is a microdose. And so John tells us he ate 3. And if you know anything about mushrooms, 3 is way too much. So Abby and I were trying to get him to calm down. And John, it's okay. You just need to sit down, drink some water, eat some food, just relax. He's okay. And we're, sit down. He gets up and he's like, no, I'm not going to sit down. We're like, okay. And he's walking around. He's just grabbing things, moving things back and forth. We're like, John, seriously, just sit down, relax. And he's still, no. And he walks over to the air compressor in the back of the shop. He's reaching down, he's flipping the switch back and forth. And I'm like, John, what in the world are you doing? He's just flipping it back and forth. And I look over, are you all right? He goes, oh, what am I doing? You know how to do that. I'm like, okay. And he grabs the hose of the air compressor and looks me right in the eye. I go, shh. And then says to me, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, John, it's okay. Seriously, let's sit down though. So I take him over to a chair that's over here. And right next to that chair is a table full of fabric that we've been shaving. And he reaches over and he's petting all this fabric and he sits up again and goes, I'm shrooming out. And we're like, okay, John, for reals, you seriously need to just sit down and relax. And I'm laughing so hard at this point. I don't know how I even composed myself to do this. But I walk into the front office where another coworker, Olivia, is sitting in the front desk. And we're like, okay, we're going to have John come in here. Fair warning, he ate some mushrooms and he's having a bit of a hard time. And she goes, he ate mushrooms? And we go, yeah. And she goes, oh, that explains something. And we go, explains what? She goes, when he walked in, he swings the door open full force and shouts, cock-a-doodle-doo, as loud as possible. And she goes, I don't know why he did that, but that makes sense now. And that's probably one of my favorite stories of him, just because it makes me laugh every single time. He was just a funny guy, and he fell asleep in that office for probably 4 hours. And then got up, John, are you okay? He goes, I'm going home. And we go, let's do that. But I hope he had a great time when he got home.
All right, I know things probably a little weird bringing bundt cakes up here, but I brought some bundt cakes for your family over here. My name is April Frampton. Actually, in 2027, it'll be 10 years celebrating my friendship with Jon and his family. And when I first met Jon, I was actually working in the film industry for a visual effects company. We were getting ready to do a Jackie Chan project, and I'll make this short. But at that time, I had connected with Jon through my business partner. And I still remember what I was wearing, and the day I had that conversation with Jon sitting at Finn's restaurant, it was less than actually 2 hours after the meeting. He had connected me to a nonprofit. He's like, April, you need to meet this person. And I'm like, yeah. That was kind of going forward. If you guys know Jon, his life goal is to celebrate people and friendships and giving back. The reason I bring this here is when I first started with a concept in 2020 as a filmmaker, I had an idea to start a marketing company. I met Jon at that same time, and I met Sean Banda. I had 50 doors slammed in my face. Well, let me see, let me think about it. And I can say right now, Jon never thought about it. He just did. And he was a true friend through and through. I can't tell you how many bundt cakes I dropped off to Jon. And Bill Schiffinat at the time, he received many foods from me from thinking. So this I'm giving to your family, guys. I can tell you it was April 12th, last year, I talked Sean Banda. The day I found out that John had got cancer, I talked Sean into doing a fundraiser at Bunk Cakes in a week. That does not happen because they're a franchise. But Sean believed in me, as he has done. Thousands and thousands of connections are made by a cake. It is not a cake, it is a friendship. So guys, going forward, every event I do, every bit of charity that is given out to people will be remembered to this day. Jon Absey, his family, and his friendship, and the goodness he brought. Guys, give it out to his family and Andy right here, guys.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Al Richards. What's that? Do I need music? Why, was I walking funny?
He is a foot shorter.
I am a foot shorter. You guys will understand here. Anyway, I wanted to get up and share something, too, about John. I met John, I don't know how long it was after he had lost his job. And I was introduced to him by a friend, Tina Esparza. Tina worked at the Olympic skating rink in Kearns. And we had this big networking group called the First Fridays. And Tina comes walking in, and here's John. And she introduces me to John. I had no clue John was the original Jazz Bear. So we hit it off really good at the first time. I mean, like a lot of people have said before, you know, as soon as you meet John, he's instantly your best friend. And you are one of his best friends as well. And you know, he come to a couple other networking groups, and I got to know the guy a little bit more. And it's kind of funny, which I think these other two will share a little bit, how we all kind of come together. But I do a podcast, and I remember it was either John or Nick or somebody reached out and said, hey, let's do a podcast about starting life over. John had just recently lost his job. I had lost a 24-year career. Ron Duncombe, who's sitting over there, is no longer the Maverick monster truck driver. Nick had gone through a lot of stuff in his life. Our other friend, how could I forget Ryan? Ryan. And so, yeah, I'll bring him up. But we decided to get this show together, do this podcast. So I reached out to my producer. We got everybody together. And it was getting close to around Christmas time. And I knew our friend Kaz dressed up as Santa every year. So I reached out to Kaz and I said, hey, would you have time to come and interrupt our show? Just barge right in. Well, the timing wasn't quite right, but we ended up doing the show. And here we're talking about letting go. But Kaz comes busting in, asks Santa, and he stands behind John and I, and we're sitting next to each other. And somehow we got into a 5 or 10 minute conversation about Santa delivering Barbie parts. And the laughing that was going on in that studio and the conversations that we had was just, it was something that I'll never forget. What was really cool is most everybody left, and I think someone said that John was always the last one to leave. John stuck around and he and I had a chance to talk. And that was the first time literally that I had like that one-on-one with John. And that connection just grew from there. And we had chatted a couple times on the phone here and there, ran into each other here and there. Last year was a very difficult time for me last year. In March 7th of last year, I had a below-the-knee amputation. That's why I'm a foot shorter, as Nick said. And it was probably about the 3rd or 4th day that I was in the hospital. Guess who come barging through my door? And that meant a lot to me, that John took time out of his day to come and visit with me. You know, and what was crazy is I had heard through the grapevine that John was just diagnosed with cancer. And to have him standing there in front of me at the edge of my bed, and we're just laughing and we're joking, and I'm thinking, man, my battle's nothing compared to the battle that he has in front of him. So that visit, just that visit, helped me a ton. And like Casey, he reached out to me, I think sometime around Father's Day, but also he reached out and he said, "Hey, happy Father's Day to you, brother. Hoping it was a great day yesterday. How's your leg feeling? Are you getting used to the prosthetic?" And I said, "Thank you. Leg is healing. Some days are better than others. Only 3 months post-amputation. I'm still learning to walk without a limp, patience and time." And I said, "How are you doing, brother?" He goes, "That's awesome. That is progress. That is progressing forward. You got to let me know if there's anything I can help you with." He didn't answer my question. And as so many of you guys have said today, he reached out and asked what he could do for me. And I said, "You do the same, Jon. I'm there for you if you ever need to talk. And know that I love and respect you, buddy." And he texts back and he says, "I love you back." And that was my last conversation with Jon. And someone took a picture of us that time when we did that podcast. And that is a picture definitely I'll cherish. We got Kaz standing right between us, dressed up as Santa Claus, and Jon and I are just sitting there busting a gut. So I just wanted to share that experience that I had with Jon, and it's a man that I looked up to, that I always love and respect. And I hope I can be at least half the man that Jon has been.
So I'm not much of a talker, just kidding, as Al. But my name's Andrea Bangeter, and we're just sitting there thinking, and I thought, you know what, a couple of our girls played soccer with each other, and when they were little, and that's where I met Jon, and we really didn't connect till later. He is a good soul. He's a connector, and like Jeremy said, the connections. I was like, yep, he's the connector. And I think of that because I was going through a period of my life and he's like, "Oh, I got to set you up with who and this person, that person, and blah, blah, blah. And I just was not down for it. But he just wanted to have me meet people. So he had me meet someone, and then he left a ripple. And here I am with my fiance today. And I'm very grateful for the ripple that he has left. He has left his mark on so many people here. And it's beautiful, the love and support that he has. He is a good soul, as we all know. And that's all. Thanks.
I've known Jon, it's been a few years now. He was on my podcast as well. And my favorite memory was sitting out with Ron Duncombe out at the airport at the Duck Club, just sitting under the airplanes as they'd fly over. And we were just joking the whole time. He's such a good man. I have a message as well from Jon, that I sent to him. And I said, "What's up, brother? How you doing?" And he says, "Nick," in his voice, "Nick, I'm doing pretty good. Had a couple of really good days and now just okay days. LOL. All part of the process, right? How you doing? Hope you're doing amazing. You have to let me know if I can do anything to help. I need stuff to do." The guy couldn't sit still. He was always doing something. And no matter how many times you ask him if you can do something, he was always coming back with, "How can I help you?" I'm grateful to him. So thank you.
I have many times been asked if I've ever been scared on the microphone before. It really has never happened with the exception of one time. I was doing a college basketball game, and after a report, I was still on the air, and he was in the middle of a skit where they were bowling with the bear, if you will, with all the Coke bottles, and he grabs me and puts me down on the chair, and they rifled me right through there, live on television, and I have never been so afraid in my life. But that was the only time. Not scripted, not planned, not anything. We just knew each other well enough, and that he just knew I'd get a kick out of it. He knew it'd be fun to throw me off, and there was nothing like his ability to just be so quick on his feet and have light and love and fun. He knew that with special needs children, he meant everything to them. And he also knew so much about what he was doing for the parents. I was very lucky that whenever we would go and visit with the kids, I got to see what the kids and what the parents were like afterwards, and their light and their glow and that response. That was a real gift because he didn't get to see that. He got to see all the celebration, and then he took off, and I got to see the aftermath. And that was like the most special part of those events. So anyway, I had a really special event that I put together. It was in honor of my daughter. It was for her birthday, and I had Bumble, the mascot from the Bees, and I thought, boy, it'd great to have the mascot from the Jazz. I know he's busy, but hey, wouldn't be bad to sit down and talk to him and see. And of course, we can't just talk about it. We got to go to lunch. So we go to lunch and we sit there, and he's sitting over this teriyaki bowl, and he's got his arms out. He's like, sure, great, yeah. Well, then we'll do this, and then we'll do that, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do that. I'm like, okay, now this whole event is just expanded. Now we have 15 mascots of this thing in the blink of an eye, and all of a sudden this party is jumping, and it's amazing. And everybody couldn't believe that it was the first year that we had ever done that, and it mattered to him that it went really, really well. Anybody who works with special needs children knows there is nothing bigger to them than their birthday party and inviting you to their birthday party and having you there. The movie Peanut Butter Falcon is one of my absolute favorites because of that. And if you've ever seen it, you understand why. And it was so cool because he wanted to make my daughter's birthday party the biggest thing ever. And so sure enough, he had a junior jazz event that he's going to be coming later. And he's not there. And everyone's like, well, where's the jazz band? I said, hey, he had a junior jazz event. I'm sure he's got other stuff. I don't expect him to be here. He's got stuff going on. But look at this party. I mean, my goodness. So I get this phone call from him, and he's like, hey, man, where exactly is this again? I'm like, what are you talking about? Where exactly? We've been planning this for months. I'm like, what? And he goes, I'm in Highland, and I just can't remember exactly where. I was like, no, Highland High School. The high school. He went to Highland, Utah. He's like, oh, crap. It's not what he said. Oh, all right. And I'm thinking, nah, it's okay, man. You're fine. It's good. This party's been great. Matched what he could bring. These kids just went ballistic, and he didn't just come on in and throw some balls around and leave. He goes all the way up to, I don't know how he got there, to the balcony of this high school, and he's firing off the confetti, and it's floating down, and it turns out to be the very biggest part of it. The kids, that's all they talked about, and their reaction and all those things were so big and so beautiful. And then he leaves, and we get to see what the kids are like after he's gone. And it's amazing. And now that's who we are now. He's gone, and we're them. And I hope we never lose that. Because, I always told him my job was to make sure my daughter's love never goes away. That's kind of part of why I'm doing this. And I hope his love never goes away, because it truly is in all of us. We've shared all the stories. We all have the same stuff and something unique, and we know what he was really all about. When you were in a room and somebody more important walked in, he didn't walk away and gravitate towards them, because nobody was more important than anybody else. Nobody was on the roster but not on the team. Everybody was the same. He wanted to make sure you felt that important all the time. And he made efforts for my girls that I can't thank him enough for. And I love being a part of all the stuff at the mascot bowl. And it was just normal. If he could be there, he was there, guaranteed. And so I'll just wrap it up with this. Just, wherever he is, I know there's so many kids who've passed on since. And I know I've got a couple of them. And I know he's in that bear uniform. And I just know he's got two little Italian princesses that are just climbing all over him. And they're all saying to him, thank you for coming to my party. So thanks for having us.
Hi, I'm Melina. And Jon, yeah. It's so hard, because I knew the time was coming short that he'd be with us. But we talked. Why we couldn't, I had to steal my dad's phone to talk to him. But our last talk, I'm like, Jon, you're going to be okay. You know, you're just going to be moving from one existence to the next. You know, your body's in rest. You are not in rest. Because he's not gone. Everybody talks like he's not here. And he so is. You know, I didn't know him that long. It was only 2018. But he carried me through so many storms. And the last time we talked, I'm like, Jon, I want to go with you. Because being a person who has a disability that doesn't show is hard. And Jon saw me for me. And he supported me. And that's why he got the gifts that he got. His first gift was when I found out why he was fired. And I told him that he was bigger than the bear. And every other one was just to say, Jon, I love you, and I'm thankful you're in my life. But I know when I talked to him the last time, I said, Jon, your body's resting. You're not. You will keep going. And I know for a fact that he's going. He's moving. He's not gone. And so just know he's just ready for you guys. And I love you. Thanks for sharing him.
Hi, my name is Jason Woodland. I've known Jon now for 8 or 9 years, I think it is. And at one point in time, we were supporting a dear friend of ours who had blood cancer, and we were raising money. And I had a good conversation with Jon, and Jon's like, hey, we need to get Andy and Coach McBride involved. And I said, that's great, let's do this. And during that conversation, we were talking about this sort of grand entrance that she was going to come in on in this particular situation. And I'm like, yeah, let's maybe get like a cool car, a limousine or something. He's like, well, do you know anybody with a helicopter? And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Sorry for the language. And I'm like, well, I might, but what does that mean? He said, well, does she know how to rappel? I'm like, oh boy. I thought I knew how to think big until I met Jon. And he wanted her to rappel out of a helicopter and fireworks and this whole situation. We didn't get quite to that level because she didn't know how to rappel. But nonetheless, Brother Jon, you're a fantastic human being. I'm deeply grateful for you, and I'm thankful for the lesson on how to think 100 times bigger than I would have thought before. Much love to the family.
I'm going to do my best. Shauna, girls, love y'all. I've worked doing security for the Jazz for 25 plus years. Jon's first day on the job. Let me back up real quick to explain this. So I lived out in West Jordan, worked downtown doing construction. I didn't want to have time to go from work, home to shower, to the arena in time to work. So I would just shower at work and go over a few minutes early. And Jon's first day there, I'd been there and sitting there in one of the portals. I believe it was portal H. And all of a sudden, this guy comes bouncing in through the portal doors, gets right to the edge of the stairs, starts looking up and around, looks down and around, runs down, sits in a seat, looks around, goes over a couple more rows down, sits down, looks around, and he guy just like checking everything out. He stands up, turns around, starts walking back up, and he sees me. He comes running right over to me, like everybody says, his best friend. I met Jon. He says, don't tell nobody. I'm going to be the new mascot, starting tonight. I'm like, awesome, can't wait, see what you do. This can be fun, He says, I might call on you now and then. I'm like, anything I can do, anytime. And that's where our friendship started. Over the years, doing skits together, been to a couple weddings, family get-togethers. He'd been to my kids' birthday parties and scared the shit out of a couple of them. Sorry. Scared the crap out of a couple of them when the confetti cannon took off, and they took off out the front door as he was coming in the back door. But like Craig said earlier, Jon had more energy than anybody. Well, I've got I know somebody that's very close to his energy, and that's Andy. It might be a little slower energy, but you've got the energy of Jon just in a slower motion. And Jon, like everybody's been saying, you were his best friend, and you always felt like he was your best friend. When I heard what was happening, I was hurt, didn't know what to say, didn't know how to reach out. Reached out, and I got the same thing. What can I do for you? Like, let me know what we can do for you. So, just want to, say my 2 cents real quick. Like I said, I'm not very good at public speaking, but Absey family, we love you all, and we'll keep in touch. And just remember, Jon is always here with us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephen Hyatt, and I didn't know Jon, but Jason asked me to come and help out set this up, and I asked him when he showed me the face of Jon, and he told me he was the mascot. I'm like, wait, was he the mascot in 1995, 1996? And said, yeah, and I'm like, my mom told me a story when I was a kid, when she was pregnant with me, that the mascot rubbed my mom's belly, and I'm like, and so I kind of felt like I come up here and share that, because I was like, I didn't know him, and I grew up with the Jazz, and he was kind of like, how little background cultural things that kind of we just say or do, but the Jazz Bear was kind of like part of Utah culture, and so I just appreciate that he existed, and all the stories that were shared tonight, it was just like, it kind of hit home, or it made me, I can't cry, but it makes me choke up a little. But lastly, I made something because Jason told me about this. I thought I could, give a gift to the family. I drew a portrait of Jon, and I figured the family should deserve it. Anyways, thank you for letting me share.
Thank you all for coming. But in Jon's tradition, we did a lot of charity stuff together. We did a lot of different events together. And the one thing that we always talked about was the people that would come, take a picture, and then leave. There were very few of us here to set up. We'd appreciate any of you that could stick around and help us break down. I can't tell you how much I personally appreciate you all showing up. Express your love for Jon. I know the family lived through just a tough year. And it's nice to know how many people showed up, stayed, and became a part of this thing. There are so many people, it's like Shauna said, Jeremy, Rick. There are so many people that I'd love to thank. Mark and Roma Adkin. I mean, people that have been there for us for 30 years. And then people who show up in the last year and make the magic happen. Thank you all for being here. It's so cool to see so many of you people who I've known for years and years and years. And this guy right here, Coach, you're the best. Love you, Shauna. Love you, ladies. And let's remember, Baker Jon, is the grandson. Thanks a bunch, and we're going to break this thing down. And I will share, if you keep an eye on Andy_Chad on Instagram, I will share once I get the information on the live feed. Okay? Thank you.
A lot can be said about Jon Absey. He was the man who put on the suit and made an entire arena forget about their worries, who climbed ladders that were too tall, launched off trampolines and dreamed up stunts that nobody would let him do, and a few they probably shouldn't have. He was 25 years of laughs, standing ovations. He gave every single thing he had to people he'd never meet and kids who'd remember him forever. He gave humanity to the bear, but that was just who he was. Because away from the lights and the noise, he was the same man. The one who picked up the phone during the hardest year of his life and asked you how you were doing. He was a father who loved his family and the Lord Jesus Christ more than anything else in this world. He didn't slow down when things got hard. He didn't stop showing up. He never lost who he was. Some people fill a room. Jon filled an arena, and he filled the lives of everyone who was lucky enough to know him.
And whatever comes our way, yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. I like smoking lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We can climb so high, I never wanna die.
make sure that when you leave this earth that you leave a footprint on it. And I think my biggest goal is I feel like my success or my value will come if I have a full church. What I want to die with is, and I feel that I'll be the richest at, is relationships. I want real friends. I want close family. And I just want everybody to celebrate the fact that we had time together in this however many years of my life.